Welcome to Tell Me Your Story. Yes, I am Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan, and she is my guest, and she's returning, Jeanie Cisco-Meth. And Jeanie, it's great to have you back with us here on the program.
Richard, it's great to be back. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
And it's an opportunity that I wanted to extend because I thought, and this is funny, when I got out of high school, I shared this the very first interview you and I did. I got out of high school thinking, oh, good, I'm away from the bullies and it's all going to go away. Everything's fine. No more bullying going on in the schools. Well, the only bullying that wasn't going on was the bullying of me because I wasn't in school anymore. They didn't do that in college, even junior college. Oh, I do have to to amend that by saying that they did kind of sort of in a way do that in vocational school, which was unfortunate, but I survived. And I've been doing this now for 46 years. So I'm pleased that I've made it through, but there are a lot of folks who haven't made it through. And it's really unfortunate. And that's why we're talking about it, because it hadn't gone away. It's still there. It's still a part of, I guess the right word here is it's still part of our zeitgeist. And it is one of the reasons why on June 15th, 2015, when I looked at the TV screen, I said, no, I do not want this individual in that office. No, I didn't care about his policies. No, I don't want a bully. So, well, what, Truman was a bully? No, Truman was not a bully. He basically said, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. I'm out. In a manner of speaking. We're here to talk about the work that Jeanie is all about, and that has to do with, we'll call it anti-bullying. She's got a website, JeanieCisco-Meth.com, and it has to do with the work that she is doing, basically to help people to, I guess, to not just survive the bullying, but to find ways of maybe diffusing. There are methods and so forth. Am I even close anymore to to the work that you do to try to help people in this regard?
Yeah, the biggest thing, the tagline on my book, Bully Proofing You, is called Building Confidence and Personal Value from the Inside Out, because it's something that we have to do ourselves. I can never control what people say. All I can control, hopefully, is the way I react to it, or the way I have a planned response, which is a big part of my book. And it's about building resilience, because nothing has meaning except the meaning we give it. And so if I allow someone, to do and say things to me, that's in partly my fault, not always. But when I allow it to damage me to the point where I lash out, that's wrong. And I think in society lately, we have given a pass to people who say, well, I've been bullied, therefore I can. No, you can't. It's wrong.
Mm-hmm. Where where does it come from? And when I ask that question, it is said that an individual who is expressing their anger is, and I thought this was interesting when I saw this for the first time the other day, they're actually sad inside. All right.
Well,
Not
anger is
depressed necessarily,
yeah,
but sad.
yeah.
So when a bully is bullying, is it the same thing? Is that coming from anger? And is it truth that they are actually deep down inside they're sad?
Yes and no. All bullies, I can't say all, 99% of bullies are being bullied themselves or have learned it from someone else, many times in the home. So hurt people hurt people. So bullies are hurt people, and they reach out and they hurt other people. I don't know if you've ever had the experience of where you're having a really bad day, and then, Susie Happy comes along and is in your space, and you're like, just get away from me.
Mm,
I don't want you near me, right? Because I'm upset or I'm sad or I'm disappointed or I'm angry. Anger is much more acceptable and easier for us to deal with as a society than sadness or fear. If I'm afraid, if I get angry, that's more acceptable than being afraid. And so when we're in one certain mindset or feeling, we want others around us to have that same mindset or feeling. So if I'm hurting, I want others around me to hurt. The
Mm.
beautiful flip side of that is if I'm healed and I'm doing well, I want others to heal and do well as well.
It's interesting. We're going to bring this into the present, 10 years forward from where I was referring. And there's a quote that you have listed here. When individual behavior and decorum falter, so does a country, which is, after all, only the common reflection of millions of its individuals. And this was a quote from the commencement address by a gentleman by the name of Victor Davis Hanson at Hillsdale College 2025. First of all, if you don't mind, who is Victor Davis Hanson?
I don't have his bio right in front of me. I can grab it right quick.
No, that's all
Um,
right.
but
But
I really enjoyed his speech and what he had to say. And the simpler or more common phrasing maybe that people have heard is you're exactly like your five best friends.
mm,
And so the people I'm hanging out with, whether I believe what they believe or not, I will grow to believe it.
mm,
And if you look back over the last 20 years, we accept things now that we never accepted 20 years ago. And in my opinion, there's wrongness there.
yeah.
But if we just slowly move, I think it's called, what's it called? Something window. It's about where you look through something and you see something, but if you move that window, you see something else, right?
Hmm.
And so and I know that, your job is media, right? Talking to people, getting people to look at things.
Yeah.
And sometimes we tend to have this bent or this direction where we constantly look at things. And right now, you can't turn on the news without hearing some shooting or some horrible, heinous act. It seems like it's commonplace
Hmm.
because of the amount of times we hear it. However, it is still not as commonplace as I hope it never gets to be. There are still many people, millions of people who go through days just fine. They don't have problems, but we're so afraid that we might have a problem. Well, my thing, right? My class says, let your fear be bigger let your faith be bigger than your fear, right? But we live in a fear-torn society. If hurt people, and anger's easier to feel than fear, I'm showing anger.
Mm.
So we have all of these flashes, we have all of these difficulties, and it goes back to fear,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
people prey on. Yeah.
And you also have this wonderful quote, and I'm going to try to move through this. Be strong and courageous. Be strong and very courageous. Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. That is from the book of Joshua, 1 6 through 9. And of course, there's a little bit more in that respect. And what I find so interesting is that a lot of this bullying, especially here in the United States, seems like it's coming from people of faith. And unfortunate, and then of course, then there's the other side too that just returns the favor. And the one, yeah, and the one thing that I'm still perplexed by is how it is that either side, and I'm not going to name names as far as sides, but either side in a bullying situation, how is that helping to resolve the situation? How is that helping to de escalate the caustic nature of the environment by continuing to be this way? Um,
It doesn't.
I
It
find it,
doesn't.
yeah, well, and I find it fascinating too how, and it's not just the current people in control, because this has been going on for, well, not just decades but centuries. How it is that we have this attitude that as long as we have enough weapons to defend ourselves, if there is a conflict, we will win. And of course, and God will be on our side. And both sides are saying the same thing, that we have enough weapons and God is on our side. And I just see her going, how has that ever worked? It's never worked because both sides always lose. Even if we start taking a look at just the last century, World War One and World War Two, and Korea and Vietnam, and bring it forward if you want all the way to 2000, both sides lose. We have lost incredible potential from those people who died. I know they made the choice. They said they wanted to serve, but that's not the issue. The issue has to do with the fact that we're constantly using other things to pressure other people to do what we want them to do. And when they don't, then we escalate. And it's like, how has that ever resolved anything? Um, what? There was a statistic somebody put together a long time ago. I wish I could remember the exact numbers. But in the course of human history, we have had maybe, I don't know, 100 years of peace where there was no fighting going on in the entire existence of humanity. 100 years. I don't know. It's been very small, like 2 or 4 or 6%. And of course, it all depends upon how you do the math, whether it's been 6,000 years or 10,000 years, but the same difference. And it's like, and you've heard this phrase, Jeannie, that, if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. And we're not learning.
It's because we're human and we're sinners. And the devil will use anyone he can to cause fear, to cause anger, to cause hurt, to cause pain. Because when we are in those emotions, he's happy. When we're hurting one another, he's happy. So it doesn't matter what label you put, what label I put on myself. I'm a mother, I'm a teacher, I'm a mentor, I'm a parent, I'm a wife. I can put all those labels on me, and underneath I'm still a human. And humans hurt people
Mm,
because there's nothing good in us except the Lord. And
mm,
so when I look at a group of people, I need to remember there are people who will do good in that group, and there are people who will do bad in that group because we're people. And if
mm,
I don't constantly connect myself to God in His will, I absolutely will do bad every single day.
mm.
Because the further I drift away from Him, the easier it is for the devil to use me. And I don't want the devil to use me. I want God to use me for good.
Absolutely. Jeanie Cisco-Meth, my guest. JeanieCisco-Meth.com is the website we'll be linked to. And guess what? You're listening and watching Tell Me Your Story. I am Reverend Dr. D with Jeanie Cisco-Meth, and we're talking about this subject of bullying. That you could probably put some other labels on it if you want. The emotions are certainly there. Bullying, it seems like seeking revenge, seeking retribution for an alleged wrong that was done to the person doing the bullying. And I always go back to that same equation. How is that helping?
It's
How is
not
that
healthy.
helping to resolve the conflicts? I abhor the drama, those kinds of things in my own life. I don't care to watch it on television or in the movies. It's just not. And, case in point, I was watching Batman versus Superman, the movie, right? And I went all the way to the end. And I'm sorry, spoiler alert, folks. You watch the hour, hour and a half, however long it is, you get to the last 15 minutes, and they finally stop and they start talking to each other. And this all erupted over something that was said, I think, I'll just, I'll throw this in there, about one of their mothers. Maybe it was Batman's mother. All right. Your mother is so fat, blah, 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 whatever. And as they begin to dialogue, the energy starts to lower, the all of that. And they finally realize that, oh, we really didn't need to go through all of that. Oh, well, sorry about that. And I realize, I understand that it is the drama and the mayhem and all of that that sells tickets to the movies. I get that. But um, it's just it's like that's where the to me that's where the solutions are, aren't they? In dialoguing, in actually having a conversation, a communicative conversation, right?
Absolutely. And we used to do that. I mean, look at past presidential debates. They were debates. They were talking. They were displaying what they believed, what they thought, how they would act. Now it's just a couple of people having a temper tantrum on stage,
Yeah.
and you see that all the time. My belief is we put way too much weight on feelings and not enough on logic and our thought processes. Because feelings change. One of a dear friend of mine wrote a book called Life Changes at the Speed of Thought,
Mm.
right? Or something like that. I
Hmm.
genieized it, right?
Yeah.
But life absolutely changes at the speed of thought because as soon as I think a different thought, I have different action. And so
Yeah.
in my book, I talk about a quote from Viktor Frankl, which says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose. And in that choice lies our future. It's people are not making that space bigger. They're not looking at the stimulus and thinking about it and then, having a response. All they're doing is reacting to the stimulus.
Yeah.
They're not taking a moment and going, hang on, what's going on with this person who's in front of me? Do I need to walk away? Do I need to, ask them if they need a hug? I love that movie Migration where the little duck says, do you need a hug? I love that. And then she's hugging her brother and she says, do you feel better? And he's like, no, it hasn't kicked in yet. And she snuggles in further, right?
Yeah.
We need a lot more hugging in our world, even the prickly people. Prickly people need a hug even more
Yeah.
because hurt people, and
Hmm.
heal people. And so if I can learn how to manage my emotions, I can respond instead of just react. Because when emotion is high, intelligence is low. And that is exactly what we're seeing all over our planet right now.
Yeah.
Emotional people that have very, very little intelligence, that are reacting in ways that are absolutely inappropriate. And nobody's going, stop, don't do that. That's wrong. Because it gets views, it gets likes, it gets reposted, no, it's wrong. It's wrong.
Hmm. Yeah. It's it is wrong, and the fact is that it does not resolve anything, and it exacerbates the whole situation. And that's and I'm just as guilty as anybody else of at times being in those situations where I need to calm down. I need to just stop for a moment and get out of my emotions. And it happens. And I will tell you that since my wife and I have moved, when we have been driving through these mountain roads, and there are a big difference between these and let's say the freeways and highways and byways of Los Angeles, which we are above that in San Bernardino. And I now understand why insurance rates are higher up here than they are down there. It makes perfect sense. And I do my best to travel these roads at a safe and slow speed. And yet my wife will be asking me to slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down. And it's like, it just, and I'm getting to the point where I keep reminding myself again of why the insurance rates up here are so high for auto insurance. And it's like, okay, I don't want to have to use my insurance.
Right.
So
Well, and the other
for her
thing,
sake, as well as ours.
right, yeah. I was gonna say she's afraid.
Yeah.
And it always feels, I was a driver's ed teacher for a lot of years. It always feels faster in the passenger seat than it does in the driver's seat
Ah,
because you are in control in the driver's seat. However, your passenger is not
it's
in
not.
control.
Yeah.
And she may not trust you for some reason or another, right?
Yeah.
And so taking a moment and just saying, honey, it's okay. We're safe. I'm in control. I know
Yeah.
what's going on. I'm being careful. And so just allowing your words to reassure her and
Mm.
alleviate some of that fear will make your ride in the car much better.
Well, I think one other phrase to add to that. And I hear you. And
Yeah.
then have the corresponding action to and I hear you by slowing down if that's what it takes, so that she feels comfortable. Because quite honestly, the average speed up here is 30 miles an hour. There are places where the circular turns are down to 15, but the average is about 30 miles. And it's like, you're not that far away from this community or that community or the other. They're all fairly close together. So it's not like you have to rush, and you shouldn't. My wife attends, she has an app where she's getting reports about the different accidents up here. There was a bus that went off the road and injured 19 people. Fortunately, no fatalities, but there were a few that were seriously injured. And that just goes to show you're going too fast. And it was a school bus, I believe. I believe it was. So yeah, it's so important to be mindful. I want to talk a little bit about that as we continue. We're talking with Jeanie Cisco-Meth about bullying, and I want to talk about mindfulness as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. From your perspective, Jeanie Cisco-Meth, what is your observation, your perspective on mindfulness when it comes to this conversation about uh, being? I don't necessarily say that we are dealing with, but being in the proximity energetically of bullies.
So the biggest thing is to remember that whatever I focus on gets bigger. So a little while ago, you were talking about how your wife gets a report of all the accidents in the area. And when you're driving, she's like, honey, slow down, right? Why? Because she's focused on all the accidents in the area.
Mm.
So her fear and emotions are high, just like we talked about before. And so when I'm in the presence of somebody who is trying to intimidate me or control me, my emotions will come up. I will get afraid. I will be scared, which means often my intelligence drops. And, it's just like when somebody says something to you and 2 hours later you have a response.
Hmm.
It's because that emotion has come down and now you're able to think again.
Mm.
So when I'm dealing with somebody who's trying to intimidate or control me, I need to take a deep breath and say, right now I'm safe. What do I need to do to continue to be safe? Just like we were talking at the beginning, do I react and escalate? No, I use a calm voice. I stay relaxed. And maybe I just say, thank you for sharing. And I
Hmm.
walk away. And I talk about that in my book, different responses that you can have when somebody is trying to bully you.
Mm.
It's very interesting when years and years ago, when I was teaching and I started the very beginnings of bully-proofing you, and I was using it in my classroom. And I asked students, I would always stand at my door and greet students. And there was an incident where a student came in, another student, we're going to call him Timmy. Timmy's coming into my classroom and he's very upset when another student had said something to him in the hallway. And I was like, I didn't think it was very inflammatory. I don't remember what the words were, but I remember thinking, why are you so upset? But Timmy was upset. And then later that day, we'll say Jim was coming into my classroom. Another student said something to him that, in my opinion, was very inflammatory. And I'm like, hey, you okay? He's like, that guy's an idiot. And when I started realizing that it wasn't the words that were used, it was the meaning I attached to the words. And it was the emotion that I felt in the moment those words were delivered. What story am I telling myself about those words? And so I invite everybody, this is called Tell Me Your Story, right? I invite everybody when they feel something to just pause for a moment and ask yourself, what story is in my head?
Mm.
What am I telling myself now? And it will absolutely, first of all, enlighten you.
Hmm.
Hopefully you listen.
Yeah.
And then what story am I going to tell myself now?
Yeah.
Because that will change everything in your life.
Yeah. And perspective is a big thing. It really is. I know too that another method of dealing with someone who is trying to do the things you were describing is to walk away,
Mhm.
which can work if you're literally walking. But we also have we also have situations on our highways and byways where it's getting harder and harder to walk away because they'll follow you because they have gotten a wild hair and they're going to get revenge or they're going to get even or whatever the case might be. And that's where forethought is really important. Let's not do something that will antagonize someone. So let's back off. You know, I have people who up here in the mountain community, I don't know why, but they like to tailgate. Not everybody, but a few here and there. And there's no place to pull off. That was one of the things I remember reading in driver's ed. I had to take a couple of driver's ed courses over the years. And one of the suggestions, you know, they said, okay, when somebody's tailgating you, what do you do? Do you pump your brakes a couple of times to get them to, you know, flash your brake lights to get them to back off? Do you speed up? Do you do this? Or do you pull off to the side of the road and let them pass? Well, a lot of times you don't have there's no place to pull off. Here in the mountains, you know, there are a few, but you know, they're far between. What about that in terms of the aspect of walking away? Because we will have it in the grocery store or a bookstore or someplace else, you know, and the individual's just, you know, going crazy. And you know, it's like, I don't want to deal with this. You know, I
I
don't know
always
what I
tell
did
people,
wrong, but I'm walking away.
yeah. So the best thing is to say thank you for sharing and walk away.
Yeah.
I mean, well, wait, well, I don't want to thank them for sharing. Well, they've told you your opinion. You're not agreeing with them. You're not accepting it. They're trying to stick a label on you. They're trying, like I said, they're trying to intimidate you. They're trying to stick a label on you. Nobody says you have to accept that label.
Right.
Peel it
Right.
off.
Mm-hmm.
Leave your label on there. I know who I am. I know what I am.
Yeah.
And so when I remember that, when I get my identity from God, who
Mm.
died for me on the cross in a horrible way, I don't need to accept this person across from me. I don't need to accept their identity. I
Right.
have my identity, and it's grounded in Christ. And
Yeah.
Christ died for me, and he loves me more than I can even imagine. And so I don't need to listen to this person spewing hate at me because it doesn't affect me. And so
Yeah.
when I can remember that, I can walk away with no problem at all.
I got a phone call um, in June of this year, 2025. Shortly after we had gotten the notice to vacate our rental property, shortly after we had lost our dear Angus, he was our 100-pound King Shepherd, and we had to let him go. He was old, and it was time. And I get this phone call from one of the PR firms asking me, "Is this Richard Dugan?" I said, "It is. Yes. How can I help you?" "Hold on just a moment. I'll get Julie on the line. So he put me on hold and they came back, put me on speakerphone. Obviously, they must have been in a conference room and began to read me the riot act, saying some of the most inflammatory things, telling me that the hat that I wore was stupid looking and it was creepy. Many of our people think that you're creepy looking with that stupid hat and you're one of the worst interviewers, and went on and on. And I tried to break in. I finally hung up. I
I
said, I
would
don't
have
need to
hung up
listen to this.
within the
Okay.
third word.
Then, yeah. And then I get an email minus the expletives, but the same diatribe. Then I get a second email saying you'll be hearing from our attorneys. I'm thinking, what? I don't have a contract with you people. Why would I be hearing from your attorneys? And I remember sharing that with my wife, the incident, and she broke into tears because she's very defensive or protective, I should say, of me. And she says, I'm sorry that they hurt you. And I said, but they didn't, because what they were saying at that time, I was aware. First of all, that wasn't me, number one. And number two, uh, obviously there's something going on in that company, and I just happened to be the target at that time. All right. So I didn't own it. It wasn't mine. So I'm not hurt. Is that maybe a perspective that we would need to take when we are dealing either directly or even indirectly? Because in January of 2017, I came to the realization that there were three, and one of my guests on the program gave me a fourth step. There were four steps now that I had to go through in order to release myself from this particular situation of bullying. Not the phone call, but in terms of this gentleman who in June of 2015 came out and I said, no, I don't want to bully in that office. And the first one was, thank you, teacher. And that word was a hard one. Thank you, teacher, for teaching me how not to be. And then the next one was, I forgive you, but more importantly, I forgive myself for allowing myself, because that's what I did, to be dragged into that quagmire of emotions and so on and so forth. Then the third was, question, what is it that you are so afraid of that makes you behave this way? Because that's my observation, that all of that comes from fear. And then the last one was one of my guests who said, okay, now you have to make this 3-word statement to this person, whoever it is. I love you. You have every right to be here just like me. I don't have to like what you do and who you are, but you're a human being just like me. You are here, um, you know, uh, sharing, and you're doing your thing and I'm doing my thing. It's kind of like Shakespeare, the world's a stage and we're all but actors, right? And so we all have roles to play, right? This person's playing their role, I'm playing my role. We don't have to interact, and I don't have to allow myself to get dragged back in to that emotional quagmire. It seems to me like it's not a. And again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems to me like that's not a bad 4-step plan to try to diffuse um, situations like that, where if you can walk away or you can drive away or pull off to the side of the road and let them go on their merry way or what have you, and get on with your life, because otherwise you get distracted. You're not living your life's purpose, right? You're not following the guidance that, say, your still small voice is giving you, because you're wrapped up in emotions instead of being mindful of who you are and whose you are and what your life is all about, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Jeanie Cisco-Meth is my guest. The website, jeannieciscometh.com, will be linked to that website as we continue talking about the all the different aspects of bullying, and her book, Bully Proof You, here on Tell Me Your Story. Tell us about how you began Jeanie Cisco-Meth to realize that I need to let the rest of the world not just know that I was bullied in my life, in my childhood, but that there are ways that you can bully proof you.
Well, it didn't come from me. It actually came from a fellow teacher. And I had been teaching the Bully Proofing You curriculum in my classrooms. And so I taught for 15 years. I taught for 17 years, but 15 of those years was at an alternative high. So dealing with kids who were in state's custody, in foster homes, group homes, things like that. And so it was a very high at-risk student population, and they had similar problems. And I developed the Bully Proofing You curriculum to help them not have to come back to make better decisions, to understand how life works. And I had just, I can't say I saved the life of a person, the teaching saved the life of one of our students. And we were sitting in a staff meeting talking about it, and one of the teachers leaned over to me and said, "You really need to share this with more than just your classroom."
Hmm.
And I was like, "No, I don't need to. I'm fine right where I am." And but over that year, the Lord just kind of kept poking and saying, "No, we need to. This is a gift that I have given you. This is knowledge that I've given you. It's not yours to just keep in this little small spot. You need to share it." And my book became a bestseller, which is crazy because I was the kid in school that did not do well in school. I
Hmm.
had dyslexia, and I had writing problems. I mean, oh, all kinds of school problems and learning problems. It was part of the reason I became a teacher, because I learned certain things to help me. And so that's why I became a teacher, was to help other kids. And then all of a sudden the Lord's asking me to speak up to more people than just my little 20 to 25 person classroom. And it was very scary. And my book became a bestseller. I've been on stages either through radio or TV all around the world. We've been on physical stages all across the United States. And the Lord has absolutely blessed this message. And I
Hmm.
am so grateful for it. And there was a time when I was scared of it, and that's okay. He gave me the strength to rise above, and I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for that.
Well, it sounds like you, all of your experience being bullied and everything, you kind of went into the lion's den because it's the schools is where a lot of the bullying goes on. Whereas I would hope that if one was being homeschooled, you wouldn't have that problem. You know,
Yeah.
you'd like to think, but
Well,
in
bullying happens everywhere,
yeah, I do.
right?
Hmm.
Bullying, the act of bullying is trying to intimidate or control somebody for your gain. That's what bullying is. If somebody puts their hands on you, that's no longer bullying, that's assault. But people tend to think, well, that's physical bullying. No, that's assault.
Mm.
Bullying is words or body language to intimidate or control somebody. And so it happens in school, it happens in the family, it happens in the workplace, it happens on the bus, school bus or metro bus. I mean, it can
Mhm.
happen in relationships.
Yeah.
And so a new program that we're working on rolling out is bully proofing your marriage, because it's not just about a bad marriage, it's making a good marriage better, or saving a marriage that's going down the tube
Mm.
because bullying is happening. And so I'm excited to do that and work through that and make that available to people.
Well, the experiences that I've had since we moved up here a month ago, as of this conversation, and the interactions that my wife and I have had in the car of late. Matter of fact, we drove all the way to Big Bear from our home, and it's a winding and twisting road and all of that. And I remember the first trip that we took, she was telling me pretty regularly to slow down and slow down. But this last time that we went, I was much more mindful not just of the fact that I didn't want us to be a statistic, but more importantly, because I didn't want her to be afraid, you know? And so that is part of my process, my own personal process anyway, of reminding myself, okay, you're not the only one in the car. And I'm not a race car driver, and I never have tried to be in, at any way, shape, or form. And sometimes, you know, you just, if you're going downhill, sometimes it starts to get away from you, and you have to be much more mindful of what you're doing. And so that's where I'm at these days. And it makes the drive so much more pleasant. It really does. And we get along a whole lot better. And then
Exactly.
when we're looking for example, the last time we were there, we were looking for this Mexican restaurant that we saw as we were driving in one direction. So now we're going back the other way. And she saw it. And I said, okay, at the light, turn it, let's turn around and we'll go back. And so, and we finally did. And I slowed it down despite maybe the consternation of the people behind me. I wasn't doing 5 miles an hour, but, you know, fast enough. And we finally found the place, did the turn signal. Always let people know what you're doing, please. I try to every single time, even if I'm in a parking lot. And they say, well, why would you do it in a parking lot? Because if you do it all the time, then you'll do it all the time. You know, there won't be a time when you don't use it. And what's the big deal? It's not like it's draining your battery or anything.
It's called communicating with your car.
Exactly.
But it is, it's just, and people have lost the art of communication.
Yeah. And that's pretty
We
obvious.
need
I
to
mean, I know
bring it
you,
back.
in your driving, I'm sure you've run into people, not literally, but you've come across people who you're behind them and it's like, why are you slowing down? Okay, what are you going to do? That also brings up another subject I want to go into, and that is our intuition. And we'll talk about that with Jeanie Cisco-Meth as we continue talking about bully proof yourself, bully proof you, and jeannieciscometh.com. The website will be linked to here on Tell Me Your Story. I am Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan. She is Jeanie Cisco-Meth, and we are talking about Bully Proof You. That is the book, and jeannieciscometh.com is the website. We talk all the time on this program. We promote it like you wouldn't believe, encouraging people during this decade of perfect vision, 2020s, decade of perfect vision, to spend some time going within and listening to that still small voice. Now, sometimes you don't have to go within. Sometimes that voice is right there in front of you or right there in your head, if you will. And it's giving you the impression that, talking about driving and communicating, the person in front of you or the person to your left in front of you or to your right in front of you is going to make a move here. And you might want to slow down just a little. Don't slow down a lot, but maybe a little bit. Because they're not going to tell you, but I am, that they're going to change lanes or they're going to do something. Or the big scary thing here in California is there is no law for motorcyclists against what they call lane splitting, meaning that these motorcyclists are so impatient, unwilling to wait in line like the rest of us, that they come up between the two lanes of traffic, especially on the freeway. You're doing 65 or 75, and they fly past you, which means they're doing 85 or 90. Now, I would never inadvertently open my car door. Okay. That's going to be a tough one to explain to the authorities. Why were you opening your car door? No. And you don't want to injure anybody. But that scares the bejesus. Zoom! Scares the bejesus out of me. I was like, oh my God. But sometimes your intuition is guiding you as you are moving forward in life. Talk to us a little bit about that when it comes to bully proofing you and maybe even avoiding a confrontation with a bully in a certain situation, whether it's in the store or on the freeway.
A long time ago, I learned to listen to my conscience. I don't call it intuition, I call it the Holy Spirit.
Mhm.
And he guides me and he leads me. And there are many times when I will just hear this little voice, like you said, in my head that says, turn right. And sometimes I know what that turn saves me from, and sometimes I don't. And it's okay because I'm following that guidance, and he knows where he's guiding me.
Mm.
And so if I can remember, like you said earlier, that person in front of me has just as much right to stand on that piece of ground and say what they want to say as I do. And that's their right, just like it's my right. And so if I'm getting upset at their point of view or their opinion or their belief, I can walk away. Now, if they start following me, that's harassment. And I always know where the nearest police station is, and I just head towards it and they go away.
Mm.
And so, or, you could, so I drive a Porsche Cayenne and I like to play my music, and just like everybody else does. The other day, I pulled up to a red light, and the car next to me pulled up, and he was playing music I didn't particularly like. So I turned my radio up really loud, and because it's a Porsche and it has Bose, and I listened to K-Love, which is Christian music, he didn't like my music, and so he rolled up his windows. And I'm like, that's okay. It's okay for me to play my music loud. It's okay for him to play his music loud. And we both get to respond to that instead of react.
Mm.
Neither one of us yelled and screamed at the other person. Neither one of us, said horrible things to the other person. And it's okay to let someone else believe something, even when they're wrong. I grew up on a dairy farm, and my dad used to tell me, don't wrestle with the pigs. All that happens is you'll get angry and dirty, and the pig will not change their mind. And that's true of humans too. Some people are open, some people are looking for ideas, some people say, this is what I believe. What do you believe? Then that's a dialogue, that's a conversation.
Yeah.
When I was a teacher, we had an English teacher by the name of Matt. And he loved to argue. He didn't care what it was about. He would pick the opposite view just so he could argue. And so whenever I had a belief that I thought, well, is this a good belief? Do I need to update this belief? Do I need to change it? I would go into his classroom, make a statement. He would start arguing with me. And then if I always call it legs under my tabletop. If this is my belief and these are all my reasons for that belief, if I had enough legs under that belief to contradict him, I would keep the belief. But if I went in and I would state that belief and he would start tearing all my legs out with good observations, I go, maybe it's time to change that belief.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go and that didn't mean I would automatically change it.
Right.
It would just mean I would spend some more time thinking about it, processing about it, praying about it.
Yeah.
And
Considering its
then I
possibilities.
would either keep it or I would change it.
Mm-hmm.
But so often we don't do that. We don't have those communications. We only hang out with people or listen to people who have the exact same beliefs that I do. And then I get more and more mired in that belief. But what if the belief is wrong?
Yeah.
Just because I believe it doesn't mean it's fact.
Yeah.
And
It's
so I need
yeah.
to be able to look for fact,
Mm-hmm.
not feelings, fact.
Exactly. Exactly right. Jeanie Cisco-Meth is my guest here on the program. We're talking about bully-proofing yourself, or bully-proofing you is the title of the book. Have you, now you did say you were working on what, another book, or it's already written in regards to
No,
bully-proofing your marriage?
I'm working on another class to offer. It
Ah,
will probably be a book, just because that works really well. I get all my information together and I put it in a book, and then we pull it apart and make it into lessons. But it'll be bully proofing your marriage.
hmm. And I think 2026, sometime in the spring, maybe we'll have that available.
I hope so.
No pressure, no
You
pressure.
know,
It'll come out when it's time.
right, exactly.
Kind of like my book, it took 23 years
Oh,
to
I
finally
hope it
get my
doesn't
book.
take that long.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, I'm glad that mine finally did come out last September, a year ago September, and it's been a lot of fun as well. We're talking with Jeannie Cisco-Meth, and we're talking with her. I'm Reverend Dr. D. This is Tell Me Your Story. Jeannie, this has always been a lot of fun to have these conversations, and sometimes, yeah, we repeat, but it's worth repeating, and it needs to be repeated again and again and again to help people, to help them to understand that there are better ways of living than being antagonistic and or maybe contributing to the antagonism in a dynamic in a non-communicative dynamic, if you will, called bullying. And we sometimes we do it to ourselves. You know what I mean? We tend to create those situations, and then we wonder, how did I get here? It's like, well, let's rewind that and let's play it back for you. Let's show you how you contributed to the dynamic that you're not real happy about. And I think that's really important. And like I said, with this one situation, with that phone call and then the emails, I never responded to any of them. I never called them back. Um, and then, by the way, I didn't share this part. There was a final email that came in with, again, the same diatribe, no profanity in that. And then at the last sentence in that email was just another anti Semite. And I'm going, what? I, you know, I don't understand. What gives you, what is it that I have said or done that makes you think that I'm an anti Semite? You know? And now, again, I never responded, but it was just a question in my head. But again, I just let it go because I said, that's not me. I have no animosity towards anybody as far as race, color, creed, economic status, educational status, and so on and so forth. You are who you are, and I'm glad that you have accomplished the things that you've accomplished. More power to you. But someone calling, it's like it would be the equivalent of referring to me as a female or some other race. Oh, that's not me. Where do you get saying that? Because that's not me. I mean, I just look in the mirror. That's not me. Anyway, I thank you so much for being a part of the work that we're doing here, and we'll have you back again. We'll talk more about this and talk when you have it ready, when it's ready. Okay. God's timing here on bully proofing your marriage. And we'll look forward to doing that. And again, thank you for being a part of the work we're doing here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I'm going to ask you those three final questions that I ask all of my guests. But before I do, I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We're here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and we are Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We have podcasts. They're on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and we are on YouTube where you can watch these conversations. We hope you'll subscribe and click notification. We hope that you'll also go to Amazon.com, pick up a copy of my book, Choices 5 Steps for Life, available in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle. We also hope that you'll leave us a tip. Our tip jar is called PayPal. And if you go to richarddugan.com, at the top of the page, there are two links. One to Amazon for Choices 5 Steps for Life, and the other to leave a tip at PayPal. We appreciate the fact that you've done so or that you will. Thank you, thank you, thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. And also a reminder to spend some time during this decade of perfect vision, during the decade of the 2020s, to spend some time going within to listen to that still small voice. And with all that being said, we go to our final three questions for our very special guest. The first of those is, who is Jeanie Cisco-Meth?
I'm a daughter of God, and I am loved beyond measure.
What gets you up in the morning?
Excitement and energy and the will to make a difference in my life and others' lives.
And finally, what was your best day?
I think I have every day. And the reason I say that is because now is the only time I have. And I can look back and I go, oh, when I got married, oh, when my kids were born, oh, this, that, when I graduated, all of those things. Those were incredible days. And I still have so many more in front of me. And right now, I can enjoy my life. I can enjoy what's going on. I can enjoy my abilities that the Lord has given me. And so I make my day the best or not.
Well, thank you again for joining us here on Tell Me Your Story. We look forward to having you back again in 2026. And I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to all. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for being in my life and letting me be in yours. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.